if we are actually live. I think we are now.
It says we're live. I just saw a little message.
Yeah, do you want to check on your Facebook or yeah, here we go. Works like a charm.
Yeah, awesome.
Wonderful. All right. So good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the Godox lighting chat. Today, here's my favorite, one of my favorite photographers, Sarah Edmunds.
Yeah,
so
you say that to all your photographers.
No, I mean, if there is a style I want to do for studio shots, but I was never able to do it because there's such a, I don't know, it's an Italian style or it's a feminine sort of finesse in it. I was never able to I think, at a certain stage, even with the same techniques, your photo or your image is who you are, and your image, it's so beautiful and it's so have this subtle and softness in it. It's who you are, it's your personality, and that's why I love about your image. And
Thank you.
Yeah, and I met Sarah through WPPI and we had a fantastic time there. She's a judge. She's done, I mean, countless of gold awards and first place, and she's you've done SWPP as well, right?
Yes, yeah. So, I've got an about me slide that's coming. We can skip very quickly through that, but
all right. I just want to make sure everyone have a good look at your face, because once that slide is up, here we go. We have a tiny icons there, but yeah, I'll leave the rest to you.
Yeah,
you want to take over and
yep. Sure. Yeah, just so in case you've never met me, or we've never spoken or crossed paths, just here's a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Wales, and I've been in Italy for quite a long time, although I do go back and forth. I really keep one foot back in my home country, which I'm very lucky in that it's so close. And I started learning photography in 2010, age 38. And I always make a point of telling people that, because I often get messages from people saying, oh, I'm so relieved to hear that, that it's possible to start late. And there's plenty of time. You can start at any age. I shot my first wedding solo 6 months after I started learning, so I just went straight in. I knew straight away I wanted to be a professional photographer from the minute I started. And now I photograph portrait, wedding, commercial, mainly fashion and beauty. I just did one yesterday, which is why I'm looking so tired today. I also teach and mentor online, and I am really focusing now at the moment on my editing and retouching business, which is really what I love doing. I think probably equal with shooting. So at the moment, that's taking over.
Okay.
So if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at Sarah Ferrara Photographer. I'm Sarah Edmunds is my maiden name. Sarah Ferrara is my previously married name. So you might see both names, just so you don't get confused. It's the same person as me.
So just to be clear, when you were talking about mentoring, we're talking about the post-production, retouching,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I do a lot of teaching of retouching. A lot of people who say, teach me what you do, teach me exactly what you do. So I do that privately, and I do one-to-one. I will sometimes, at the moment I'm doing, I used to have an online platform, but I found that people really needed one-to-one teaching, because you can know a technique, but it's how you apply that technique that is really important. So I now do one-to-one mentoring, and I also edit and retouch for other photographers. So I edit, I have a little small team working with me, but I oversee everything personally. And I also, for certain jobs, things like wall art, fine art, competition, I will do myself. And I do everything from literally people will hand me their wedding straight out of camera, the entire wedding, and I will deliver the finished album. So I can do as much or as little as people need.
Here you go. Sounds like I need some of your retouching to help out with my the photo shoots that we were talking about.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Should I go next page,
Yeah,
Sarah?
go on to the next slide. This is just a very,
Yep.
very, we don't have to dwell on this because I'm British and I get embarrassed about this, but I feel
No,
like
let me talk about this. she's that's what I'm here for. She's been WPPI master and judges for years. I've been judging with her all the time, and everybody loves her. You should definitely go there and listen to her comments. It's a great way of improving yourself, and she's the fellow of SWPP and judge there as well. And she's been doing Cosmos print competition judge. Oh my God. And she's been fashion photographer of the year, and you will see why very shortly with her beautiful images. I think with lots of wedding photographers, they do wedding and wedding signing, and Sarah is one of the few photographers that's actually doing both wedding and a portrait and fashion and advertising, and be good, or be fantastic, be awesome in all these areas. So and she, of course, she won 6 first place, 4 second place, and 3 third places in WPP, and countless of, she called that 9 golds, to be humble, but I call that countless of golds and golds distinction. And it was her first time entering the SWPP, and she got first place, second place, and in the classic portrait, and the first place in the fashion. See what I'm talking about? And the first, second, third place 11 times overall. So she has this lots of awards, and today we just feel so lucky to listen to her secrets.
Okay, let's move on from that now.
Yep.
Okay, so what we're going to be talking about today is all about lighting, because without light, there is no photography. That's what it means, writing with light. Okay, you've heard that. We've all heard that countless times. But no matter what, if you're using artificial light or natural light, all of the same rules and techniques apply. So once you understand how light works, how you can shape it and how you can control it, that's when you can really bring your vision to life. So once you master lighting, you can use equipment or natural light and bend natural light to suit you, or use the artificial light to really control, and then you can really master photography. There is no photography without light, so it's absolutely fundamental. Next slide.
Yep.
So mastery of light is the control of light. It's not calculations, algorithms, or meters. However, if you're one of those mathematically, technically minded people who really love light meters and inverse square laws, and that's how your mind works, fantastic. I'm not. I just draw blank. In fact, I remember when I first picked up a flash and I looked at the back of the flash and there was a fraction on it, I just went, oh God, I can't do that. Can't do that. I just dropped it. I'm a natural light photographer. I really struggled with anything technical like that. My mind just draws a blank. So it's not necessary. If you're a more visual, instinctive person, it's just 2 ways of looking at things. So you can do it both ways. You can be a very technical, metered-oriented person, or you can be a much more instinctive shooter when it comes to light. But that does not mean you're just guessing. There's another way of understanding light. It's just approaching it from a different angle.
Would you mind to answer the question here?
Yeah, there's a question. Great. Did you study photography at university, and is it needed? I would say, in my humble opinion, with all respect to people who have studied photography at university, no, I didn't study photography at university. I remember starting a university course, and I quickly, very, very quickly overtook the pace of the course, learning with tutorials, and I dropped the course. So I didn't get past, I think, the first module. I jumped way ahead. So my personal opinion is no, it's not necessary. However, if you want to, then fantastic. I can't think of a better subject to study at university.
See, I asked
exactly
the same question 10 minutes ago.
Everybody says
private
that.
chat.
Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but I painted it myself. And I'm not painting another one. Can I just say that was hard work. I've got two. I've got a beige one and a dark one, but I usually use the dark one.
Oh, so sad.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's go next.
So the next slide.
Yep.
Okay, so don't panic. Don't panic. This is a table. If you don't like maths and equations, don't worry. This is the table, the maths table for dummies, maths dummies like I am. I made this table to try to understand. I had a huge problem. I started with lighting, artificial lighting, with studio lighting. And studio lighting, or the one that I started with, just went 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which was super easy. I could understand that. I looked at the back of a flash and it had these equations on it, and it threw me completely, didn't understand it. And so for the longest time, I couldn't cope with small flashes, which I needed at weddings. I've never been a fan of TTL. That seemed like black magic to me. So I created this table to try to show the equivalencies between the power settings using the fractions that you often see on the back of smaller flashes or some brands, and then the settings that you get. I'm pointing at my screen. I've just realized that you can't see my finger pointing at the screen. So what I've done is I've got the percentage of the full power, and then I've compared the 1,000 watt studio strobe going all the way down to the average speed light, which is usually around 60 watts. I quickly inserted the AD200, which I just started using yesterday. I literally opened the box, put it on my light stand, and I shot my commercial job with it, and I absolutely loved it. So I quickly added that in. And it just made it clear to me that if I was shooting, I had been shooting a 400 watt studio strobe, and I'd usually have it on setting 3. So I could see that if I wanted the same power, all I needed with my Godox 200 watt was a quarter power. So it made me understand what I needed, and it made me understand that I didn't actually need that much power in my studio. So I don't need a 1,000 watt strobe or a 1,200 watt strobe. So I realized that all I needed was to shoot what I like to shoot. The 200 was just perfect for me. So I've been shooting for many years using the 200s, and that's why all of the images that we're going to be looking at are almost all shot with the 200, because they're just so handy. They're little teeny things that pack a lot of power, and I can literally take it from my studio, throw it in my bag, and then go to a wedding and shoot it and use them for weddings. So that's my dummy's guide to studio strobes versus flash, and trying to work out what power means. Okay.
So I would say that answer Paul's question. What is your favorite lighting, right?
My favorite lighting. Do you mean artificial versus natural, or my favorite
I'm not sure.
brand?
That's the question he's asked. I would assume that just your favorite light, maybe.
Yeah, I love all light. It depends on what I'm trying to do. So every situation, every image has a certain look, and I will choose the light to serve what it is I'm trying to do.
Yep.
So it depends is the answer. For starting, can I just see that last question?
Sorry.
For starting, 2 AD200s or 1 AD400. Depends what you're doing. Personally, I would go with 2 AD200s and an AD400 and a couple of AD300s.
Yep,
No,
more lights, more fun, isn't it?
If you're shooting weddings, I'd go with the AD200s because you can use those both in the studio and for weddings.
Hello, David.
Hi, David. Love you.
Mr. Man.
Okay, caveat. Oh, I just wanted to say, can I just say the caveat? Right, so watt seconds, talking about watt seconds. There's going to be a nerd who's going to pull me up on this, so I better say it.
Where? Can you just tell me?
The watt seconds are only the amount of energy used by the flash, not the actual the actual flash output. An efficient flash might therefore put out more light than an inefficient one. So therefore, one brand of light with a certain watt seconds might put out less light than another one. And it also depends on what diffusers you're using. So that's going to affect what is being output. So watt seconds, which is what we measure the power of flashes in, that's the amount of energy that the flash is using. I just want to make that caveat, just in case there's any lighting techies watching who are going to, want me to point that out. We can go to the next slide.
Yep. Sounds great. That's my first time. The watts per second. That's my first time to understand the energy myself.
Great! Yay! Awesome. So settings. The reason I haven't put on every image what settings I've used, the f-stop and the ISO and the flash output, I can probably remember some of them, and I have standard, I have favorites. But the reason I don't put on every image what I've done is that I don't think that's a good way to learn. There's no point memorizing the settings or asking a photographer. You often see someone will post something on Instagram and everybody wants to know, what f-stop did you use? What lighting power did you use? The only way to understand how this works is just to practice, is just to do it. Practice, practice, practice. And you will then be able to understand. You will be able to look at an image and you will be able to pretty much guess what lighting has been used and what camera settings have been used. And you will never learn that by memorizing what other photographers have used for a given shoot, because the settings, the lighting on the day might be different, the distance of the light from the subject might be different. So yeah, practice, just do it. You have to do it. Next slide.
Yep. Do you want to quickly jump on, answer a few questions?
Well, I think the ones that I have are the AD200s, so I can't answer that. I haven't. Okay. I don't think I've tried the Pro. Some simple guidelines for studio work. Okay, there are two different ways you can work in the studio. Blackout of ambient light, meaning you knock out everything that's all of the light that we can see. With the settings on the camera, we make it like a black box. So the only light that we can see is what is coming from the flash, and therefore we've got total control of what we are lighting. Another way, which is what I often do, is that I have a lot of daylight in my studio, so I let a lot of daylight in. So with the flash turned off, I have the camera settings set so that there's a dim layer of daylight. And then I use the flash, just a little pop of flash, to control where I want the light to fall. So that's two ways of shooting. And then on location work, you're going to be letting in much more ambient light. How do we do that? We do that usually by having a more light coming in with using the shutter speed, so having a slower shutter speed to let in more light. And then a little pop of light of the flash to shape and really control what's going on, but enough light so that we can see the background. And I've got a few on location shots that we're going to look at as well. So how much natural light dictates how dramatic the look is going to be. So if you've got lots of ambient light and a much lower level of light coming from the flash, it's going to look very natural. If you've got very dark ambient light, so the natural light, for example, let's say you're going to darken the skies and have a really powerful flash on the subject, it's going to look really dramatic. So you choose what that balance is going to be depending on the effect that you want to have.
Do you want me to jump to slide 16 and 15 so people have a quick notes of those dramatic and natural you talk about, or we do that later? Up to you.
I'll get confused if we jump around.
Okay.
Is there a question?
Let's not jump around. Let's just stick out with our gun.
Yeah. Is there a
questions?
Is there a question I saw?
Do you want to look at the right side? That's the comments popping up, so you can I
can't. I'm on. Oh, okay.
On the StreamYard, yeah, there is a comments section, and so you can see all the comments there. But I will highlight a few of them for you to answer.
Super. Okay, so a lot of these I'm going to come to when we start looking at the images.
Okay. Sure.
So someone just asked about weddings, though. I'm just going to quickly answer that. In weddings, I have used for many years Godox AD200s with the Fresnel head, and I use them. I use them for bridal portraits with the softbox. I don't bother changing the Fresnel head because I'm usually in a real rush, so I just stick a softbox on, and then in reception I have 3 balanced around the reception. Okay, so shaping the light. We'll talk about quality of light. What's the quality of light? Oh, this light has got a beautiful quality of light. Light is simply photons. So how do we alter this mysterious light quality? Move on.
Yep.
So this is my patent pending DDD formula: direction, diffusion, and distance. Okay, this is what I'm kidding. Don't laugh at me, Aries.
No, I'm sorry. I have a quirky sense of, it's funny.
Have you got? Is that? Have I said something rude by accident? I tend to do
that.
No,
not at all. Not at all.
Good. Okay, so direction, diffusion, and distance. These are the 3 elements that you need to remember. And direction, we're going to start, if we go to the next slide, we are going to start with direction, which is the most important. Ignore this at your peril, okay? This is the others are very subjective. Direction is everything. No matter where the subject is or who the subject is, male, female, animal, newborn, light always comes from above in some way. It might be lowered to the side, but it's always going to come above. Light falls down the face and the body. It casts shadows that fall downwards and sometimes to the side. But since we are born with this in our brains, okay? Since babies, we've always seen. Okay, someone's just said, I know why Aries is laughing. Okay, you're gonna have to fill me in later. Don't tell me now if it's gonna embarrass me. Okay, since babies, we've always seen shadows on the face in a specific way. Anything that we're not used to seeing, even subconsciously, seems odd or even frightening. And that's why if you shine a torch from below, you look like a horror movie, right? It's because it's wrong. Our brains just go, that's all wrong. Light does not come from above. The sun comes from above us. Even the way that windows are placed, they're generally placed. If let's say that it's a small window, it's not halfway down. It's not halfway at the wall. It's up. It's on the top part of the wall. So the light is always falling down. So anywhere on this planet is the sun ever shining from below us. The direction provides classic lighting patterns, which I'm not going to go into detail here because that's another presentation, but you'll have heard of things like butterfly, Rembrandt, split light. The direction creates all of these patterns. So direction is the number 1 thing you have to understand. If we move on. So diffusion. Diffusion is whether we get hard or soft light, okay? There is one is not better than the other. You use hard light for some things, it looks fantastic, and soft light for for other things. It depends on what your vision is, what you're trying to do, the subject, and you can control the diffusion with softbox, grids, bouncing. Bouncing simply means pointing the light at something that's going to reflect it back on the subject. So you could, what I've done at a wedding, for example, is to light a group. I just pointed my flash on my reflector and had the reflector pointing towards the group, and it lit the whole group. So another thing you can do in the studio, if you don't have a natural light to provide fill, you can just point your light up into a white ceiling or a white corner if you've got white painted walls, and that's just going to bounce the light everywhere. And again, at weddings, if you've got a white walls, white anything, you can bounce it off that. Even a white shirt works great. The larger the light source, the softer the light gradation. So by that I mean when the shadow, the softening of the shadow from shadow to no shadow. So if you've got a very, very hard line, that's super hard. That's what we call hard light. The smaller the light source, the harder the light and the shadow gradation. Soft is not always better, so choose hard or soft accordingly. Sometimes if you go over soft, it can look flat. Sometimes if you've got a really spectacular model with perfect skin, you can go super hard because you don't have to worry about skin problems. However, if you use super hard lateral lighting on somebody older or with skin problems, you're going to be doing a lot of retouching. Now, grids, contrary to what some people think, grids do not make light harder. They just narrow the spread. So if you've got a softbox, I'm trying to look at see what you can see. So if you've got a softbox that's angled like that, the light is going to go out in that direction. What a grid does is it just brings it in and it focuses the light. It doesn't make it harder. And the narrower the grids, the tighter the beam. So if you've got a big, large squares in the grid, it's just going to bring it in slightly. The narrower, the tighter the grid, the more control you've got. So feathering, if I want to feather, I'm going to rip the grid off. And what feathering is the part, here's the softbox, the light sort of coming along here. There's a soft edge. If you think about Photoshop and a soft brush, it's very, very concentrated in the middle, and then it gets softer and softer as it goes out. So you can get a super, super, super soft light by angling the light away from the subject and just having the edge skim across the face. So that's what feathering is. It's just using the very edge of the light. So you're not pointing the light directly at the person. Next slide. Yep. So distance, this is the final D, and distance. If I'm usually very often at a wedding, if I've got too much power and I don't have time to be fiddling around with settings, I will just pull the light away slightly. So it's a very quick way to reduce the amount of light on the subject. But the further away the light, the smaller the source, so the harder the light. Now, if it's just a foot, you're not going to be seeing much difference. The closer the light, the greater the amount of light, and the softer the source. Now, when I started, I remember I wanted to try a really soft look in the studio, and I didn't have a very big softbox. I just had a small kit softbox, a little square, and I experimented. I pulled it really, really close to the model's face, so it was right here. And I was able to I had to take the power right down, but I was able to get a super, super soft just by bringing because it seemed like an enormous softbox. So when a lot of people are thinking of I want soft light, I need to have a huge softbox. And then they have a tiny studio. It ends up being, there's no control over the light whatsoever. So the huge softbox is great if you need a lot of distance, if you're photographing cars, or you need a lot of, you have a huge studio. But very often, if you've got a small, like most of us do, most of us have small areas to shoot in, you don't need a really massive softbox. Next slide. Okay, so now we're going to move on to examples of my walks using Godox and mainly small flashes. And so I can just show you what I'm talking about. So starting with the most recent stuff, which was during lockdown. Now, I was stuck here in Italy during lockdown, and boy, was it a hard lockdown. We were allowed out once a week, and we were allowed out to walk a dog, but no further than 200 meters from our front door. So it was almost like house arrest. So I decided to keep myself fresh and busy by having some fun with my daughter on my balcony. So if we just go on to the next slide. This is my daughter, my 11-year-old daughter, Ellie. And here's an example of, it was just getting dusk with that lovely blue light. And I just had my AD200 in a softbox, camera right above me, pointing down at her and feathered slightly across her face. And yeah, this was, we did a series of balcony shots on a tiny, tiny little balcony. Quick question, parabolic softboxes versus octagonal. I like octagonal because I like the catch lights, but I did start using square softboxes, and I also use strips as well when I want to narrow things down. And then we did one during the day.
Since we're answering question, maybe we can just address the few questions.
Sure.
Okay?
Yep.
Quickly, really quick. Yep. Let's just start from here. I think we've done weddings, so maybe next one.
Okay, 2 AD200 and a V1 enough for a beginner. So it all depends on what it is you're doing. Are you shooting weddings? Are you shooting portraits? Are you shooting outside? It's not so much for a beginner. I think 2 AD200 and a V1 would be enough for an expert as well. It's not that more power means more advanced photography. It just depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, totally agree.
Do you find yourself using HSS a great deal, especially outdoors? I love HSS. Yes, I do. I shoot a lot at f2, f2.2, f2.8 if I'm using my 70-200. And I love just not being limited. Back in the days before HSS, I used to use a neutral density filter to block out the light.
Oh, man.
It seems like a huge waste of light. You know, you've just paid money to have all of this light, and then you have to, you know, block the light on the lens. So yeah, I love it. I love just being free to be able to, if I want to darken down a little bit. I love just being able to just be free to choose the settings that I want and not be limited to the max 250th shutter speed. So yeah, I do use it a lot. Do I recommend softbox, parabolic, or umbrellas? I would recommend that you beg, borrow, or steal, or buy each and find out what suits you. What do you prefer? It all depends on the look you're going for. They all give different looks, and it's all subjective.
So this is pretty much the same question, right?
Yeah. Which umbrella and softbox? Which modifier do I prefer? I do like the umbrella, the reverse. Is that parabolic? I don't even know what it's called in English. The the reverse, when you shoot into the umbrella, then there's a diffuser panel in front. The indirect, it all gets bounced back. I do like that one.
Okay. So reflective umbrella.
Yeah, reflective umbrella.
Yeah.
Or a softbox. But as I said, if in a stretch, I'll just have a reflector, and I'll just point my flash at a reflector or a white sheet or something, and yeah. that'll do too. Yeah,
I think that's the thing. Lots of people think softbox and reflective umbrella it's the same thing. It's different, right? Because when it's reflect, the light is even further diffuse, like what you said in the earlier lecture.
Exactly.
It's softer, right?
If it's being pointed into the umbrella and bouncing back, the light is the size of the umbrella and then it's diffused. Whereas if it's in a softbox and it's pointing, it's going through the diffuser, but you've still got that hot spot. You've still got that. It's a little bit more directional, I'd say.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree totally. Oh, this is a long question. I already bought. I want to buy my. So okay, sure. I recommend setup. Oh my God, that's a long question.
Yeah, I'm waiting for. I have the V1. Well, the difference is power. So the AD200s pack more power. So if you want to shoot with the sun, have the sun, but the setting sun behind your couple, maybe it's really quite strong light. With the AD200, you're going to get a lot more power to be able to compete. I wouldn't say overpower, but definitely balance out and get a really good strong. So in terms of wedding photography, during daylight, doing bridal portraits in the sun, an AD200 is packing a lot more power. And if we go back to that table, you can see the difference of the power, how much power exactly you can get. And when you are competing with the sun, you do need a bit of power. And the AD200 serves great in terms of small flashes. It's like that.
Yep.
Do I use the round head or the Fresnel head more often? It depends what I'm doing. In the studio, I have the bulb, so it's more like a studio light. And then for weddings, I just clip out the bulb and I clip on the Fresnel, because I'm usually I'm worried about damaging the bulb, and it's just very quick and easy. We can go from portraits and I can go straight into reception and start setting up the reception. And I've just got the Fresnel, which I use with MagMod.
Cool. Gotta send you one of those round head.
Sorry?
One says, gotta send you one of those round head.
Yeah,
the
great.
Round head works like a charm.
In which situation we use light with a bare head? Okay, I've used light with a bare head with a model shooting swimwear, and I wanted to get a really hard shadow behind her. It was a look at the time, so I wanted to have the model and a very clean shadow behind her on the backdrop, and so I just shot with a bare bulb and just a reflector to stop because with a bare bulb it's going to go everywhere. I wanted it to be as hard as possible, so I had the little silver reflector.
Yeah. So maybe let's continue with our lecture. Let's let the questions flow in, and after we've done one section, maybe we can answer all the questions all at once.
Okay, so my next project while I was in lockdown, the first day, it was May 4th. May the 4th be with you. May 4th, we were allowed out of the house, and we were allowed to see people one at a time. So in the studio, I promised my daughter because she'd been out of school doing homeschooling since February. She hadn't seen her friends, and it was her last year in elementary, and all of the kids were desperate. They couldn't see each other, they couldn't have their final dinner, they couldn't have a group shot, because we had no idea how long the restrictions would go on for. So I promised my daughter that I would take a picture of all of her friends one by one. So they came in with masks, parents had to wait outside, it was all very distanced. I shot from way back, gel everywhere, and I shot each of her 21 classmates for their final. I've just got a few examples here. So in my studio, using one AD200 and a softbox, reverse umbrella, and I wanted to create something a little bit special, not just a little headshot. I wanted to give them a little fine art style shot. So they all had, my daughter arranged the 15-minute, 10-minute slots that they had, that they could come one at a time. And I arranged them all in sitting, standing, in lots of different positions, but very, very fast. And I just used one light because it was, first of all, I was in shock after being on house arrest for 3 months. I was in shock being in the studio dealing with 21 kids. So I wanted everything to be really simple. So one AD200, and I shot them all like this in various positions. Go on to the next slide, just to show some more examples.
Would you mind sharing with us what size of your umbrella?
It was 120 centimeters.
120. Did you use the diffusion material?
Yeah, just one, just the Velcro diffusion, and it's feathered. I have it quite high, and usually feathered, so pointing kind of across them. So there's just enough light falling on the backdrop and just enough light falling on them. And then you can see the final result is the next one. And that's their group picture, which they were absolutely thrilled with. And I've got a closer up of the, this was actually halfway, that wasn't quite finished because I can see a few places where I didn't mask out the texture. But yeah, I arranged them all in the different positions. I didn't know exactly how I was going to place them, but I just had them pose in every possible configuration, and then I put it all together at the end. How many, I've just got a question here. How many frames at the balcony location lighting have you done? Lighting, was it at once or different images? No, it was one shot. Yeah, one shot. It was balancing the ambient with the studio, with the AD200. Yeah.
Here's another gentleman has a question. Says, do we have a softbox with a stripe as an example in the later images?
I do use strips, and I do have an example later. But really, the only difference with the strip. That's a beautiful group shot of the children. Thank you so much. Most of all, I'm delighted to have made my daughter and her friends happy at a very, very difficult time. So that was a wonderful project to do. A strip, all you need a strip for is just to be able to get the whole body and have the control. If you've got a massive softbox, the light's going everywhere, because if you just think about the shape of the softbox and the light continuing on, it's massive. Whereas a strip box is just, so what I've often used it for, I've used it for a maternity image, where I just want to get a sort of an outline, and I want to get the whole body. So I'll use it for when I want to get the whole body, but I want the control. I just want a rim light. I'll usually use it for a rim light. How much post-processing have you done on the group shot? Well, not very much on the actual individuals. Obviously, I did a lot of compositing because they were all shot individually, because I wasn't allowed to have them all together. Usually, I would do a group shot like this with 3 or 4 at a time. But they were all lit in the same setup. So it was just a question of slotting them in and blending it all and making sure that it all fit.
I know I said that before, but the backdrop works like a charm too.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a bit of a texture on there as well, just to clean up, because obviously the backdrop was filthy, and so I cleaned up all of the floor. And was this group shot taken with one AD200 and umbrella, and where did you have it placed if you did? Okay. Yes, it was taken with one AD200 and umbrella. I shot one child at a time. The umbrella is silver.
Okay.
I think. And I had it on my left, above me, and feathering across. And I probably never went higher than about half power. What camera do I use? I use a Sony A7 IIIR.
R3.
R3.
I have that camera. Works like a charm.
I always get it wrong. I had to think about it and I still got it wrong. Okay. Any other questions?
Okay. No, I think that's pretty much it. Let's continue, shall we?
So yeah, so moving on, it seemed natural to move on to groups. So I just wanted to show 2 sets of groups that I did for a commercial job using the same AD200. I used a softbox with this, and I used full power because I needed a little bit more punch, and I wanted to make sure, because I was shooting 3 at a time. So if we go on to the next one, I was shooting three women at a time. So I used full power for that. And I believe I used 2 AD200s. I used a little bit of fill. So that was a commercial job. And then I did a light version as well. Go on to the next one.
So and good.
These ladies have a little bit more retouching going on because, come on, we ladies like a bit of work. If you're actually shooting a group, what would be the best aperture you would use? If I was actually using a group, it would be f8 minimum. Yeah, so if I'm at a wedding, I'm on f8. Ever used more than 3 lights for a photo? Yes. What's the most number of lights that used in a photo? Care to show an example, preferably not a beauty image. Well, no, I can't, because I would only use 3 or 4 lights for a beauty image if I wanted to have the background lit, rim light, and a front light. For portrait, I wouldn't use. I usually use 1 or 2 for portrait.
By the way, do you place those people by groups, like 3 people a group, 3 people a group?
Yes. These ladies, I did 3 at a time. And I kind of had them moving like a conveyor belt so that I could easily mask in the overlaps. So I had them, so the first 3 shot in the middle, then I had them sort of shuffle along, and then I brought in the next 3, but had them hold their position. Okay, is AD200 much better than AD400? No, it's just half the power, and it's smaller, and it has a battery. The AD400 doesn't have a battery, does it? Is it plug-in, or does it have a battery? Yes, it does have a battery. Aries.
Sorry. What was the question?
The question was, is the AD200 better than the AD400? And I just said the difference is the size and the power. I'm not sure. I don't have the AD400, but does it have a battery? I don't know.
It does. The battery it's very similar to AD200. The battery is on the back, so that's pretty much it. Yeah. It's just twice the power. And if you want to use a bigger softbox with it, I mean, because it's Godox mount, you can mount the softbox directly on it rather than use sort of brackets, which required by AD200. So that's the only difference. So I think even though you don't have AD400, it's very similar to AD300 though, right? It's 100 watts extra, but it's a bit more extra weight. That's it.
Exactly.
Very simple math.
Well, yeah, and you can see that when you look at the table, especially when you get down to the lower numbers, the difference is tiny between them. Yeah.
So if you guys have time, just refer back to Sarah's table. It's very intuitive, and from there you can decide which lights you want to go ahead with.
So yesterday I was working with these ladies, the same client yesterday, and I literally opened up. I'm a little bit in love with this. I literally opened up my AD300. So people are asking whether the AD300 is better. So they're different. It's different. This is the AD300. So it's still really nice and neat, but it's not the AD200, which is squarer and a little bit smaller. But this is going to be my go-to now for the studio. And I'm going to keep my 200s for the weddings. Yeah.
And to be honest, I think A300, the recycling time, it's a bit faster than 200. So,
yeah. I tend to not worry so much about recycling time because I don't shoot really fast. But I didn't yesterday. I just pulled it out of the box. Off I went. No issues. Didn't have any problems with recycling time.
Yeah.
So,
do you want to have a look at this question?
Yeah. have you used the ADB2? No, I haven't. What's the ADB2?
Is that AD200 or?
AD2?
I'm not too sure.
I haven't used it. Lockdown, we used it last week. Well, I suggest use it and let us know. Go for it.
Yeah.
You just
Give it a try since you already purchased it.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to try it.
Can you show the beauty shots with multiple lights? We will. It's
Yeah,
in the later images. Yep. For weddings, I think we've pretty much answered that question, right?
Yeah, for weddings, I use MagMod modifiers, and I use the Godox softbox for the couple portraits.
Yep.
How to like when a model is wearing a hat and the sun shines above her. A reflector will do it. That'll help bounce a little bit of light back up into her, and you might not even need a light.
Okay. Corner people shoot the corner. But the corner people and shoot at the corner of the frame instead in the center.
The corner people shoot at the corner of the frame. No, everybody in that group shot is shot in the center of the frame. I've only the ones at the corners are just there purely for the compositing reasons, because I only had one AD200 with a second one for a bit of fill. So yeah, no, they weren't all like that for the final shot. I shot them deliberately, and also that way I can concentrate on the expressions. It's very, very difficult to make sure everybody's hands and pose and expression is perfect in one shot. That's very, very difficult. Okay, next, should we move on?
Maybe just answer the question, whichever is left. The AD300, is AD300 better lights in your opinion?
It's now my go-to for studio, I would say. It's, as I said, recycling isn't usually a problem for me until I get to the end of the battery life, because I tend to shoot very slowly. I tend to set up the shot rather than just go click, 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 click. I tend to take my time and make sure everything's done, make sure everything is set up. But having that little bit of power, the construction of the softbox and the way it slips on is lovely. So yeah, I'm definitely sold on the AD300. I'm in love.
I think that's pretty much it, right? All right, cool. Let's go next.
Okay, so just moving through portrait. Now I've done a mix here of client in different setups. So if we want to move on to the next one, this is an example of when I'm trying to get almost shot with daylight. I've got a very similar shot of the same client in daylight that looks very, very similar. And I'm shooting at about f2 here. So the AD200 is just perfect because it means that, or the AD300 just on a lower power. It means that I can shoot at my favorite f2 or f2.2 or sometimes 1.4 and get the look that I want. So this was I wanted to have that nice soft look that you get with the wider aperture. And we can just scroll through now a few examples. Oh, this one, let me just mention, this one I had two lights. I had one above. You can see just on her hair, you can see a little sheen on her hair. I've got a boom stand and a softbox on a low power, just skimming, just providing that little bit of separation on her hair and also lighting the background very, very slightly. It's very subtle.
Is that with the grate or no?
It depends on, I'll often just try in the studio and see what works. I tend to love grids. I like the control that it gives me. So I usually start with the grid, and unless something just isn't working, I might take the grid off, but I'll usually leave the grid on. How far off the background were your subjects? She was probably a couple of feet away from the background. To avoid spill in the backdrop, I actually want the backdrop to be lit a little bit. So I don't want the background to be completely black. So that's a dark gray background, and I want some light hitting it. You can always darken the background with a curve if you want to, but it's very, very difficult to fill, to add detail if there's no light hitting the background at all. So I rather have a flatter image, so to speak, so more, a little bit more light, and then I can add contrast later in post-production.
Yeah.
Okay, someone has said here, if you use a grid, you can't do soft light. No, that's not true. All the grid does is that it controls the light and directs it so that you can control the spill more. My dog has joined us. You can control the spill more. So all that's going to happen is that without the grid, the feathering is going to be wider. There's going to be more of a feather. Okay. So this one is another one with the AD200. I shot this, I think, at f2. I wanted that look. Now I know I'm not a pet photographer. Usually you want to have the whole pet in focus, but I like this look, so I went for it. That's what I mean by, choose your look and what you want to achieve, rather than following a set program. Most of my pics have a very nice, soft, perfect skin. How much of that is lighting and how much is processing? Do you do much skin work? If so, what do you use? Aha! Now we're getting into the interesting questions. So it depends on my subject. If the subject has very good skin, I can go with harsher lighting. If we're talking about a lady of my age, of a certain age, we need to be very, very careful with the lighting, and you want to have soft light that fills from every direction, or as much direction as possible, so that we're filling in all of the crevices and the cracks and the crags and the holes and all.
It's not that bad.
All the stuff that we've got at our age.
Oh no! Oh, I like this one.
Yeah, 23 times by 4. So yeah. The answer is both. It's lighting and it's post-production. Yes, I do. Children, you hardly need to do anything because they usually have beautiful skin. I do a lot of post-production. What do I use? I use Photoshop, and I do high-end retouching techniques. I don't use filters or plugins or smoothing. I don't smooth at all. I do it the hard way. So yeah, so good. Do you want to go back to the last image?
Yep.
This again, here we've got one overhead, very, very soft light, and then another key light. I'm sitting right on the floor to get down low because she's down low. The light is quite a bit above me and crossing in front of her to get that nice Rembrandt light. Okay, next one is just one light in one AD200 in a softbox. And I've just added texture and dodging and burning to create a bit more of a fine art look.
Oh, beautiful.
Next, same client. One light, a lot closer, and with a reflector that you can see in the eyes, just to have that glow. Do I have my processing techniques online? I do, but I've closed it for the moment. I do teach one-to-one though. So you're welcome to contact me for teaching one-to-one, or hire me to do it for you. Next one is the same client, same one softbox, just a completely different look. She wanted a mix of fine art and natural. And the next one, this is an example of a strip box, but I only had one. Can you see our left, her leg, that's the strip box, and it's going all the way down her arm and it's going all the way down her leg. It's not on the other side because I didn't have enough chargers charged at the time. So I just had the one side. But that's an example of the strip box, just providing that rim light and that 3D effect. And it's a shame I didn't have it on the other side as well. Mm. So I've got the key light in front, and then I've got the strip box on a much lower setting to her rear, sort of pointing towards her with a grid to keep it nice and controlled. Can we zoom in the pictures to see the texture on the skin as well? I don't know if that'll be possible. Can you do that?
I'll give a go.
Might be better with a... Do
you want to go? It's 100%. Do you want to go further?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it will get pixelated.
200% or?
Yeah, try 200.
Oh, look at the skin details.
Yeah, when okay, we can do this on another one that's got a much better detail on the skin. So what I'm aiming for with skin is that you can see all of the details. Nothing is smooth. It looks perfect, but it looks naturally perfect. That's what I want. So moving on to some commercial work.
Yep.
So this was shot again, one AD200, one softbox, and a reflector. This was for a hairdresser, and this was the test retouch that I sent. I said, don't worry, I'm going to retouch all of the hairs. And they were like, no, 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 we want it like that. That's perfect. So the brief was they wanted they didn't want the classic hairdresser image where it looks really, really fake. They wanted it to look like a portrait. So that was the brief, and it was going to be for billboards and for their salon, big backlit images in their salon, huge 6-meter panels in throughout the city, and also their website. So they loved it as it was, and so we left it looking all messy. And you can there's the next one just shows the same image on their website. And this one as well was shot with two, actually no, that was shot with one AD200 from above and slightly to the rear. So you can see it's really pulling out her profile. And the rest is just spill from that overhead light. And that was used on a 6-meter billboard as well. So it just goes to show that you can, even for a big billboard job, I needed 200 watt seconds. So
fantastic.
The next one
sure
is for, so here if you want to zoom in, you can see the skin. This is for an eyelash client. So the client sells eyelash extensions. So here you can see the detail on the skin. These were printed 2 meters in their academy. They teach eyelash extension trainers, and they also sell the products. So blown up, it was essential that we could see the skin quality as well.
Gorgeous.
And so yeah, that's my aim when I'm retouching, is that it needs to be. So here I used a beauty dish because I really wanted to carve out the cheekbones. I wanted a nice shallow depth of field, so the AD200 was perfect. And I've got a light on the background as well, just lighting those feathers. For commercial photography, what format do you shoot with, medium or large? Neither. I use my my Sony, which is 42 megapixels, but it's not medium format. So it's got plenty of resolution for big printing, but it's the same camera I shoot weddings with. Do I usually use frequency separation on hair? Sometimes, but usually I will just use a separate layer and darken mode and a lighten mode. There's hair retouching is a whole day in itself, so it's difficult to give a quick answer for that. But the answer is sometimes. all of the answers to all my questions. It depends. How do you keep colors very minimal? You only use 2 colors max in a picture. And that's an interesting.
What's the question?
This is Anadu's Polaroid. How do you keep colors very minimal? So yeah, if I'm using, so you might notice that on this image, red is the dominant image. So when you're using red, it's such a strong, powerful image, and there are exceptions, but you want to usually keep the main color being red. Otherwise, it's going to be, so here we've got a slight tinge of green in the peacock feathers, which is fine, but it has to be very subtle. In the words of David Edmunds, and I remember him, we were talking about color theory, and when using red and green complementary colors, got to be careful, it doesn't look like a Christmas tree. So with red, I tend to try to keep red being the dominant color, but I am very fond of complementary colors. If not, then they're analogous. So analogous meaning the 3 colors next to each other on the color wheel, so all very similar. Or I will choose complementary colors. So you'll see that again and again in my pictures, and that tends to be a deliberate choice. Any tips for final RGB image for print? Well, if you can find a printer who can print Adobe RGB, such as Graphic Studio, I would choose them because they can. Now, the key is to open the raw file in Adobe RGB, which is a wider color space than RGB, which is what we can see on the screen, on a normal screen. Mm-hmm. You do the editing in Adobe RGB and you save as Adobe RGB. Now, most printers can only print sRGB, meaning that all of that work that you have put into and the color and the detail could be lost because it's going to be that color space is going to be reduced. So if you choose somebody like Graphic Studio who has the Dreamlabo printer that prints the HD Adobe RGB, that would be my recommendation. Okay.
Or if they have competition work, they can go to you straight away, right?
Exactly. If you have competition work, just send it to me. If it's allowed, WPPI you can, SWPP you can't. You've got to do your own. So for SWPP, I can teach you, and then for WPPI, I can do it for you.
There we go.
When you use the AD200, do you prefer the Fresnel head or the bulb head? What's the difference? Okay, they have 2 different purposes. The Fresnel head is like a traditional flash. So, and the mag mod fits onto it. So I use the Fresnel head for the reception lighting. So I'll put 3 in different corners of the room. The bulb head, if you think about it, the Fresnel head is kind of already quite directional. The Fresnel head is round and light is coming in all different directions. So the bulb head is perfect for putting into a softbox because the light is coming out in 360, whereas the Fresnel head is concentrated and is focused more into a beam. And what about that round head adapter? I haven't tried it yet. Send me the round head, please.
Well,
I'll tell you. Kindly save the live. Very informative details. Thank you very much. I'm glad it's helpful. Any questions you have, please let me know. This is another commercial job for the eyelash client. Now, what they wanted here was that the style of lash. Now, would you believe it? That lash is a big business, very, very important. The style of lash. This is the Kim Kardashian, very glamorous. So I said, okay, Hollywood. So I've got an AD200 pointing on a pure black background. So the black background just sucks up all of the light, so you can barely see it, but it just gives us enough separation. And I've got a beauty dish with the AD200 and a reflector right underneath to give that Hollywood. It's called butterfly lighting or Paramount lighting or Hollywood lighting. So if it's a Hollywood look, it's got to be that lighting. And the actual image that I gave the client also did well in the commercial category this year at WPPI and got a silver distinction, I think. So yeah, I was pleased with that. Oh, if you want to go in on the skin as well, if people want to see.
Sure. Let's go 200%.
Because it looks super smooth until you see the print or the
texture.
Yeah, there's all of the every single pore is there. There is nothing smooth at all. Okay, so now I've got some, just press click again. Oh, there it is. Just some things that I've done during workshops. So these images are usually my test shots that while I'm setting up the lighting for the students. I would recommend, if you're attending a workshop, don't just ask the instructor, what settings have you got? And then dial them in. That's what I did with my first workshops. And then I walked away thinking, yeah, I've got it. I've got all these amazing images. And then I tried to remember what I'd learned and I couldn't remember. And the problem is that when you just dial in somebody else's settings, your brain isn't working. So try to figure it out for yourself, even if it takes a few goes to get it right. If you're on a workshop, you will get much more bang for your buck if you try to work it out for yourself. Where do you look for inspiration? Do you read fashion magazines or get inspired from other photographers or movies? What's the source? Okay, I love so about 3 years ago maybe, I stopped looking at other photographers and I started looking at paintings, only on paintings on Pinterest. And Pinterest is wonderful because once you click one image that you like, it will feed you lots of similar images. So I spent about a whole year looking at only paintings. I look at movies a lot and TV programs, and I'll often watch on my iPhone. I like watching in bed on my iPhone with earphones. It's very immersive. And as I see lighting that I like, I'll do a screenshot. And something that I've noticed again and again and again is the color grade, is the color palette, and that they tend to use short lighting for drama. So Game of Thrones, for example, is almost entirely short lighting, meaning that we are viewing the shadow. So the light is coming from behind and we're looking into the shadow, and it's almost all Rembrandt short lit. The same for pole dark. I love pole dark. The next one I'm going to get stuck into in terms of lighting and color grading is Peaky Blinders. And yeah, I'm constantly looking at the cinematography, the color, the lighting techniques that are used. Here's one interesting. I've always heard that 2 catch lights is a no-no. That last model had 2 catch lights. I beg to differ. Okay, so I'm not keen on 2 catch lights side to side, but the clamshell with one.
It's always 2 catch lights there.
It's a classic. It's a classic. So I would never. I wouldn't edit out a catch light. You know, it is what it is. So I personally don't agree with that saying. But you know, that's why you have to try it and see what works. As I said, I don't like very much the 2 side by side. But the one on top of the other, I think, gives an amazing glow to the image. It really lights up the eye. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's why it's called a clamshell, right? Because it's
exactly. Because it's like this. Yeah. Do you offer any workshops to help with my learning? Yes, I do. So my next one is in Germany. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. There's no second wave, and we're not all locked down again. But yes, I do about once or twice a year. And when I shoot portraits, do you request your clients wear specific colors to match your backdrops? Absolutely, yes. the colors of what they wear is absolutely essential. Yeah. And it's usually, to be honest, it's usually neutral. They usually they see what I show, which is the dark backdrop and the dark outfit. And they just go, I want that. So it's very easy. So let's take a look. Here's just some that I've done from, so when I'm teaching, this is where I really get to play around and have fun, because, you know, workshop's all about having fun. We don't have a client to make happy or to, so yeah, we just go all out. So this was at the same workshop held at my very good friend Joanna Elizabeth, who is a fantastic boudoir photographer in the UK. And we did, I think, maybe 15 different looks over 2 days. So it was full on. And here I've got 2 AD200s on either side. And I've got an AD600 central, because that's what my friend had in her studio. And that was plenty to do a nice full length shot. And then here on the right, I've got the AD600, and then I've got just a little rim light with my AD200 that I've got, I think, just on a really small, a small modifier. Okay, so Anadu's Polaroid, can you show an example where flat lighting and full fill worked really well? Maybe we'll come to one, but what I've done here is I'm showing everything that I've done using Godox rather than natural light, which is where I tend to use that full light. Simon Pollock. Ooh, Sarah Edmunds. Hello, Simon.
Hey, Simon.
So, yeah, next image.
Might look after yourself in Melbourne.
I need to drink my mineral salts. It's very hot. It's very hot here. I've got my air conditioning on, but I need to stay.
Go ahead. Cheers.
So this is, this was taken during what I call a retreat, because it's a week-long thing. I don't know if I'll do one again, considering the current times, but this is a private island near where I shoot a lot of weddings. And I hire it for the day, and I take my students and our models, and we just have an absolute blast. And we've got a video. I sent you a link to a video, so we can have a look at it later if we want to, if we have time. So this is where I've just got a beauty dish. I just wanted to add a little bit of pop, because sometimes when it's natural light and she's in shade, it's all just a little bit too flat. So I've just got a little tiny pop just to add a little bit of dimension, and you can see the shadow underneath her nose and her cheekbones. Now that wouldn't have been there without that beauty dish. So that's what we're adding, is just that extra bit of control. It's 7 a.m. in Texas. I'm drinking coffee. Awesome. Thanks for getting up so early. What lenses do I use? I have a 35 prime 1.4. A 50 1.4, an 85 1.4, and a 70 to 200 2.8. So next image.
Sure.
This is on the same island.
Nice.
And I'm using my 70 to 200 to get that really creamy background, to get lots of depth, and the sun is going down, and I've got the beauty dish on her to just balance out that sun, so that the sun isn't overpowering everything, and it just worked beautifully. And that's when you do something like this, the trick is people get very confused as to how to balance the ambient and what settings and how do you. It's very, very simple. Salua, my love. Mon amour. Welcome, darling. I missed you, my babe. So Salua has been on these retreats with us, and she was my assistant. So it's very, very simple. What you do is you switch off the light, get the background looking, love you too, darling. Get the background exactly as you want it. So the rim light and the background exactly as you want it. And then you add just enough light to light the subject. Okay, so all you do is you just get your settings, because with HSS, we're not limited, right? So you just set the settings as you want. If you want f2.8, then f2.8, and then you just get your light. If the light's too bright, you turn it down. If it's not enough, you just turn it up. It's as simple as that. That's how you get the balance. So don't overcomplicate it. And the next one, so here's a complementary colors. I knew it was going to be all green, so I said I need a red dress. And again here, I've just got a beauty dish, just putting a pop of light on her just to make her stand out so that she's not just all getting lost. And this is what I do with brides. I mean, this is a standard place where I position my bride and groom. So this is exactly what I do on a wedding day, except we've got a beautiful model and a beautiful dress. Please repeat that balanced recipe. Okay, so turn the light off. Okay. Ignore the model, okay? Now, what people tend to get upset because they go, oh, the model's dark, the model's dark. Don't look at the model. Just look at everything else. Look at the sky, look at the background. Is the sky, can you see all the clouds? Does everything look, ignore the model. She's not there. Put your finger over it. Everything's perfect. Fantastic. Now, just put the light on. If the light's too bright, just turn it down. If it's not enough light, just turn it up until it's just right. Make sure as well that the back of your camera is correct. So a lot of people have the back of their camera overly bright and their actual images are underexposed. Or vice versa. So you need to know that what you're looking at the back of the camera, if you're not using a light meter like I don't, you need to either know your histogram, like the back of your hand. You need to be able to understand exactly what the histogram is and what it's doing. I tend to rely on the histogram on a bright sunny day. I can't rely on the back of the camera, so I'm always checking the histogram. Questions: were you cloning out lights in these photographs, or were they throwing enough power? I've actually got somebody on the other side of that hedge holding one of those portable light stands and kind of holding it like this. I might have cloned the edge out, but they're literally kind of got it tipped out over, held up over the model. I don't think I needed to clone it out, but I will do if I need to. Do I use gels or edit the colors? I don't use gels unless I'm going for something crazy and it's obviously gelled. I might, at a wedding reception, I might put on a CTO gel to balance out with tungsten if need be. I love that you don't make all of your images with a super bokeh background. They seem to be a craze with shooting every image wide open. What do you do? It depends, Greg. I love the bokeh look. I absolutely do. But I do have, I didn't put them in here. I didn't put them in here because I didn't make this about weddings, but I've got some wedding backgrounds where the lake is why they've flown to Italy to see this lake. So the last thing I want is to just have the lake just be a blur behind them. So everything needs to be, you know, in focus. They want to see every detail. So in which case, yeah, I'm going to have everything in focus. So again, it's what you want to do. It's what you want to look after. I love creamy backgrounds. Yeah, it's a craze. Do you like it? Go for it. If not, shoot at f8 and have everything. Can you please brief your process on shoot, including meetings, costume, color selection, makeup, etc., what your workflow is like? I think that might take a bit of a long time.
Yeah. You're the better off book a one-on-one session with Sarah.
Yeah. Hey, please shout out. Mohammed, how you doing? Okay, so moving on to competition. So competition, I started off shooting purely for competition. No, I didn't. Start from the beginning. I started off thinking, okay, this image is all right. Let's see if this does okay. I then moved on to mentoring with Luke and David Edmondson, and started specifically creating a vision and trying to bring that to life. I then moved on to running out of time and being too busy working, so then just entering my work. But this is an amazing process because it means I've gone from having to create specifically for competition to my work being of competition standard, which is just testament to how important competitions can be. They just raise your game. There's nothing else. You see things differently. Being a judge means I look at everything differently. And sure, not every image in every album is going to be competition worthy, but I know that I can give my client, if they want a piece of wall art, it's going to be competition level. There's no question about it. So this is a shoot of my friend Joanna Elizabeth, the boudoir photographer in the UK. This is her beautiful daughter. She was 12 at the time. And we wanted to do, she was getting started in modeling. And this was one of my favorite images from her model portfolio shoot that we did together. This was placed in SWPP, I think, in children's category. And it won first place in the children's online at WPPI. So here we've got a stylist who's helping me because this is, I started off doing everything myself, from makeup to costume to making the outfits to everything. It gets a lot easier when you've got a team behind you. So here I've got an amazing makeup artist and stylist, and she's, you know, styling is everything. Look at this. This is, you know, not to mention she's a superb model. She really is. She's now 13 and she's got a huge future ahead of her. But in terms of lighting, it's just one AD200 in a softbox. Simple. Oh my God.
So good.
Thank you. Next one. You might want to zoom in on this one. So this was a lighting setup shot for a workshop that I was doing. And this is one of those happy accidents where what I had in mind wasn't this. What I had in mind was she's got long hair. I wanted pre-Raphaelite. I wanted period. My makeup artist and stylist is very fashion forward. So she had this super androgynous hairstyle, very glossy, modern makeup. And I thought, what am I going to do? This isn't what I had in mind, but it looks amazing. So I decided to go for this mix between modern and period. So I thought, right, she's got a period ruff, she's got modern makeup and hair. I'm going to go for modern beauty lighting. So I've got the classic beauty dish, rim light, and then I decided to, you can see that there's a lot of retouching here. A lot of retouching, probably 4 or 5 hours. Okay, so I really put a lot of effort into this. Even though it's great out of camera, lighting is spot on, everything's fine, but it's to make it look this perfect. This hair is retouched, everything is done to perfection for competition. And can we zoom out a little bit? I decided to go for, so somebody's asked about posing, but again, I don't think we've got time for that. But I realized I started having her doing very extreme fashion poses. I realized there's so much going on. I said, just put your hands together, just make it really simple. Another problem was that the leotard was too tight. It was cutting across her boobs. So I was like, oh no. I said, don't worry, I'll Photoshop in the boobs later. Then I realized it's all about androgyny. She looks androgynous. So I did the opposite and I flattened her chest and made it, and it's called androgyne. So it's people like, is it a girl? Is it a boy? And that ended up being the whole point of the image. So sometimes when things go wrong, go with it.
Spontaneous.
Yeah, exactly. You know, have a vision, but if it doesn't quite go to plan, you know, don't despair. Next one. This is an example of something with hardly any retouching at all. Just one, one AD200 in a softbox, and a little girl in a hat, and that's it.
It's a reflective umbrella or softbox?
I can't remember. It was this was a few years ago. I think it's a softbox. It's a softbox. Yeah, so that's an example of one, you know, one very, very retouched, and then one with hardly anything at all. Can you talk about cropping, specifically limbs and placement, and when it's okay to break those rules, if any? So we don't have time, I don't think, about cropping limbs and placement, apart from I would learn the rules, learn the classic rules first. And when I say classic rules, go back to paintings. So painters are painting everything deliberately. So there's a reason for every finger, every arm has been painted. Okay, there's no accidents, because you don't paint by accident, right? Rule of thirds, generally speaking, okay? Learn all of these rules. And then once you've learned all of the classic rules, the classic portrait rules, another excellent way about learning about rules is to enter competitions, because competitions are all about rules. Once you've got the rules down pat, you can break them to your heart's content. You can do what you like, because you know what you're doing. You've deliberately chosen to break a rule. One example of a rule is that if you've got a rule of thirds, you've got the whole frame, you tend to have the subject facing the space, the negative space, okay? However, if you want to create tension, you can have the negative space behind the subject and have the subject looking out. But don't let that be an accident. Have it be deliberate. Have it be a deliberate choice that you've chosen, and a reason for that, other than just wanting to break rules. When it comes to limbs and placement, I tend to go for triangles everywhere. You'll see triangles all over my work. Triangles, shape, diamonds, ovals. Try not to have anything going out of the frame that's going to lead the eye out. If you're going to have an arm that's going out, have it come back in, so it brings the eye down and around and back up. Okay, next one. Yep. So I've included this one just to show this is two light placement. There's one above that you can see on her hair, and I've got another key one causing that butterfly light underneath her nose. The next image shows what happened when I was running out of battery. My key light misfired, and I've just got the overhead light. Again, a happy accident. So sometimes little mistakes can work out well. So two completely different looks. And when I saw that one, I went, oh, wow, I love it. So that was something I hadn't thought of originally.
So when you talk about your highlights, it's kind of your key light as well, right? Because it sort of highlights her.
It is, exactly. Well, it's bright enough. I mean, I did bring up in this second image, I did have to bring up the overall exposure, because the light wasn't as, it's much lower than the key light. But yeah, it's sort of falling. It's a softbox, so it's falling down a little bit onto the backdrop, a little bit on her hair, and a kind of a little bit of fill as well. Can you please name some, Andrew's Polaroid, can you please name some interesting techniques like long exposure, gelling, ultra wide, etc.? So just try out an experiment for fun. Okay, so ultra wide I used to do at weddings. I sold when I switched over to Sony, I never replaced my ultra wide, because I used it for 1 or 2 shots per wedding. So now what I do is I just take 3 shots and I just glue them together in Photoshop. Ultra wide can be fun in fashion. if you've got like I don't know if you've ever seen a fashion image where there's like a huge foot in the frame and then you can see the model behind. That's ultra wide. That's really fun. Gelling is great fun. You can turn a gray background into any color you like by putting a light and gel on the background. You can put complementary colors, complementary colors on each side. Now, what's going to happen with complementary colors is that when they mix perfectly, they turn gray. So at the point in which they mix on the model, they'll be neutral, they won't be colored, but where they're not hitting the other gel, they'll be colored. So that's fun as well. Long exposure, yeah, I've tried that as well. That's a little bit of fun. Drag the shutter a little bit to get some movement and then freeze with the flash. Experiment, go for it. There's tutorials everywhere. Have some fun and find out what works for you and what you enjoy. So next one. Okay, so this one, so all of these ones that I'm showing are just things that have got silver or silver distinction or a place, but specifically using the AD200, because I wanted to show how with not very much power you can still do quite a lot. So here I've got a pullback, and you can see the hair light above her and then the key light, which is gridded and feathered across the front of her. So do you choose and design the background and rated mood and accessories, or do you have the brand and a styler? So when I can afford a stylist, yeah, I'll have a stylist, but otherwise, no, everything's done by me. I'll point out a few. So if I have workshops, I'll have a stylist, because I'm not very fashion forward. That's why everybody's in black. I'm not terribly imaginative. So when you see imaginative things, that's usually because there's a stylist involved. I usually do makeup myself as well. So next image. This was a maternity client who went on to become a great commercial client of mine. This is one AD200 in a 120 meter softbox. And that got second place in maternity at WPPI. Here's my backdrop. I want to do something a little bit fun, a little bit different than the usual maternity image. Yeah.
Yeah. And your belly, look into the belly.
Yeah, just something.
Yoga sessions.
Well, I remember when I was pregnant, I felt super powerful and full of energy, and I didn't feel sort of soft and delicate at all. I felt like $1,000,000. So whenever, of course, during her shoot, we did those images too, the soft images. But she loved this one and it did well. Steve, hi Sarah, I'm loving the stream, just stumbled across it. Will I be able to see it again? Yes, apparently it's going to be saved. Yeah. Yep. Another great thing about competition work as well is that I tend to show it a lot on my Instagram and Facebook, and I have clients then say, can I do that? I want to do that. I want to do that shot. So it's like marketing. I once heard a photographer should be able to retouch video editing, etc. What are some skills that you prefer a fashion photographer should learn? Well, the more you can do yourself, the more independent you are. So, but at the same time, we can't be good at everything. I don't do video. I've decided to leave that to the video specialist. I don't think we can do everything, but I do retouch as well. And I think that if you can retouch, you might not have time to do it, but at least if you can retouch, you can train somebody, or you can give instructions, or you can recognize good retouching when you see it. So this image, Fine Art Nude, this was my stylist brought this. I was like, fantastic, let's put this on. This is one light and reflector, one AD200 in my studio. If you want to go in close on the skin.
Sure.
You can see this. You can see this on Graphic Studio's stand. They've used this to showcase their Canvas Pro, because you can see every single pore you can see on their canvases. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. So yeah, lots of skin work on here. She had good skin anyway, but you know what it's like when you've got a really sharp lens and a very high resolution. And yeah, all of the detail. So this was another one I entered for competition. So yeah, this was for fun work. This was collaborative work with my stylist and makeup artist. This is next one is beautiful, but this was my daughter's ballet teacher, and I took about 3 years to pluck up courage to ask her if she'd have her picture taken with me. So we ended up doing quite a bit of work together, and I've got a little video showing behind the scenes. So you might want it shows my incredibly messy studio. So I did that on purpose so everybody can feel good about their own studios.
Is that the one with Lucia, right?
Yeah, Lucia, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's look at the other
share it
first. Yeah, look at the other pictures first.
Okay.
And then we can look at that. Go close on the hair as well, she said. Okay, so let's just talk quickly about this image. This has got story in it. So this is one of the elements of competition that's really important. It's telling a story. And with this one, I wanted to show the beauty of the dancer and the sacrifice and the so-called ugliness of the feet. If we go down to the feet, you can see all of the sacrifice that goes into the beauty of the dancer that we see. So what is beautiful? The outward, the swan we see on the surface, or all of the hard work that goes on underneath. So that was the idea of that shoot. Greg Shaw, what percentage of studio versus location shoots that you do? I prefer to do studio as much as possible because of the air conditioning. It's just so hot in Italy during summer. Yeah, but with weddings, you can't really do much. But I used to do more location, but it's very hard work. It's a lot of hard work. Next slide.
Yep.
This is the same shoot. I just wanted to get a bit of movement, and this tiny dancer with this massive dress, she was trying to throw it behind her, but so it's this strange pose. Well, strange. I love the fact that it looks like she's in between one pose and another, and we've got a bit of movement with the skirt and movement with the hair. And this image was chosen to be on the cover of Photo Professional magazine in the UK. And this again has got one light above, that soft box above, and then the key light as well. Whereas the one above just has one. So let's just look at the last. There's one more slide, then let's look at the video. So last slide. This was maternity of the year, maternity photographer of the year in at SWPP, and one light, one AD200 in a beauty dish, and the skirt is composited in. So that's all of the images I've got to show you. We'll move on to videos now. I'm so happy because most of your images are one light, because that's all I have at the moment. Haha, what is your favorite modifier? I have a 1x3 strip box currently. Yeah, one light is absolutely fine. 2 lights is good, depending on what you want to do. 3 lights if you want to have rim light on both sides and a central light. 4 lights if you want to light the background as well and get like a gel maybe behind. But 1 light is generally what I go to. It's easy, it's simple, and it gives a great look. I've already said what camera I use. What is my favorite modifier? My favorite modifier is, if I want to have a little bit more targeted look, is the 65. I tried out the 65 centimeter yesterday, which I really liked, because I don't like light to be thrown everywhere. I like to have a little bit of direction. And I also like, if I'm going to be using feathering, I tend to use the 120. So generally, if I've got to pick one, let's pick a medium size 85 centimeter softbox. Okay, so yeah, let's look at the behind the scenes video in my messy studio, and then you can see a little bit of makeup. Warming up and testing lots of just see what's working, what's not. So tiny, I have to sew her into the dress.
Lots of work. Makeup artist / stylist / photographer / retoucher.
They do not let pictures if they don't like their feet, their form, so everything I got to communicate. That I made with pearls and a glue gun, plastic pearls and a glue gun.
Cool.
Fun, huh?
That was great.
And do you want to play the video of the other video?
Sure.
Showing the retreat?
Yep.
I took Godoc's lights out with me to the island. So everybody had a trigger and everybody was able to, we did lots of learning how to balance. We had boudoir training from my friend Joanna Elizabeth, the dark-haired girl giving instruction. So there's an example of where full light can really look flattering. Just full light into the face. It's very, very flattering for females. You can see the person holding the beauty dish. There we go.
Awesome.
Do we have any questions?
No, but I think I would like to encourage everyone, guys. I think it's great. Sarah shares us lots of lighting techniques, right? We talk about the softbox, we talk about umbrella, we talk about diffusion, but I think the way we do lighting is we prepare raw material. It's almost like before chef goes to his table, and Sarah has a very particular way she does her retouching and sort of workflow as well. So if you guys are serious about your techniques and you do like and enjoy the way of her particular look, I do encourage you guys go to get in touch with her. I think you do one-on-one mentoring for now, right? And you do have a workshop coming up in Germany.
Yes, I've got a workshop coming up in Germany. I think there's one spot left, and we're keeping an eye on the situation to see if to see how things are going to go, whether or not we can do it. But I think so, because it's only going to be 10 people, so it should be okay. It's not a big event, so. But yes, currently I'm doing one-to-one, and I'm also doing editing for wedding and portrait photographers. Editing.
Yeah. How do I? What's the most convenient way for people to get in touch with you? By email or?
Yeah, by email. So wondering if
which page should I be looking at? Sorry, I'm just searching through there.
So you can go to love-edits.com.
Wait, I'll type it here. Love dash underscore or dash
hyphen
edits, love-edits.com, right?
Yeah.
Wait, just give me a sec. Edits.
Love-edits.com.
Yep.
Or
wait, let me quickly share the screen so that
Thank you, Michele. Greg, are you planning any future workshop in the US? I would love to. Let's look and see how the situation goes, but I'd love to, yeah. I usually come out for WPPI, but at the moment everything's up in the air. So, but if I was going to do a workshop, I'd definitely. I'd think about maybe New York. Yeah, maybe.
So, is that this one?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yep. Before, after. Yeah. So if people want to get in touch with one-on-one session, how should they get in touch with you?
Just send me an email. Just send me an email through the website. Yeah. Okay.
So clients login, get started, right?
Yeah.
So guys,
my email address is sarah@love-edits.com.
Yep. Sure. Cool.
So Sarah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sarah. And I would like to thank you for your time. It was certainly a great chat. You can see how active people are asking questions. So I appreciate this fantastic presentation.
You're welcome.
And
great.
Thank you, everyone. If there's no further question, I would like to say goodbye.
Goodbye,
and talk to you guys. And see you guys next week. Until next time.
My IG handle, my Instagram handle is Sarah Ferrara Sarah Ferrara Photographer. So SARAHFERRARA Photographer.
Awesome.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye.
Bye, Aries.